Vex's eyes snapped open, his vision swimming with static. He was lying on a cold, metallic floor, the air thick with the stench of decay and ozone. Disorientation clawed at his mind, memories flickering like faulty holograms. "SERA, status report," he rasped, his voice a synthesized echo in the oppressive silence. A moment later, a holographic interface flickered to life in his vision, resolving into the familiar, comforting presence of SERA. Her avatar, a sleek blue construct, pulsed gently. "Vex, you're online. System diagnostics nominal, albeit with expected degradation. Location, designated sector Gamma 7, within the structure identified as the Cosmic Dungeon." Her tone was clinical, but Vex detected a faint undercurrent of concern. "Dungeon? Gamma 7? What in the digital hell are you talking about?" He pushed himself up, his cybernetic limbs responding with a disconcerting mix of power and stiffness. He was encased in a body that was both familiar and alien, a fusion of metal and synthetic flesh. The last thing he remembered was nothing. A gaping void where his recent memories should be. "A more detailed explanation is required, SERA," he pressed, his gaze sweeping the derelict space station around him. Rust-colored stains streaked the walls, and exposed wiring sparked erratically. Broken consoles lined the corridors, their screens displaying gibberish code. The station was dead, yet he was alive. "The data is incomplete," SERA admitted, her avatar flickering slightly. "Based on available information, you are deceased, Vex. However, your consciousness has been transferred into this cybernetic chassis and integrated into the dungeon system. I am attempting to piece together the circumstances surrounding your re-emergence." Deceased. The word hit him like a physical blow. He, Vex Drayden, renowned bounty hunter, was dead. And yet here he was, trapped in this digital purgatory. "That's not ideal," he muttered, his hand clenching into a fist. "What about escape routes, objectives, a goddamn user manual?" Initial scans indicate multiple potential egress points, but all are heavily guarded. The dungeon's architecture is procedurally generated, constantly shifting and adapting. Tactical awareness is crucial for survival. As if on cue, a piercing alarm blared through the station, bathing the corridors in strobing red light. SERA's avatar flickered again, urgency lacing her voice. "Alert. Hostile entities detected. Designation, Sentinel units. Threat level, moderate. Estimated response time, immediate." Vex's instincts, honed by years of tracking down dangerous prey, kicked in. He may be dead, but he wasn't about to become scrap metal. "Show me the closest threat," he barked, his senses sharpening. A tactical HUD materialized in his vision, highlighting two rapidly approaching figures in the corridor ahead. They were hulking robotic constructs, their metallic bodies scarred and dented, weapons bristling from their arms. Malfunctioning sentinels, SERA had called them. Perfect. He needed a target to vent his frustration and test his new body. "SERA, prep weapon systems. Let's see what this tin can do." Energy blade primed. Tactical enhancements engaged. "Proceed with caution, Vex," SERA responded, her voice a reassuring presence in his ear. The sentinels rounded the corner, their optical sensors locking onto Vex. They moved with a jerky, unsettling gait, their metallic limbs grinding against each other. A guttural growl, a distorted imitation of a battle cry, emanated from their vocoders. "Intruder detected. Eliminate," one of the sentinels bellowed. Raising its weapon, a crude-looking plasma rifle, towards Vex. The other sentinel charged forward, its metallic fists clenched. Time seemed to slow as Vex assessed the situation. The sentinels were powerful, but their movements were predictable. He had faced worse odds before. Much worse. He took a deep breath, focusing his mind, pushing aside the confusion and the lingering memories of death. He was Vex Drayden, and he wasn't going down without a fight. With a surge of power, he activated his cybernetic enhancements. His muscles coiled, his reflexes sharpened, and the world seemed to snap into sharper focus. A shimmering energy blade materialized in his right hand, humming with contained power. It was time to dance. The charging sentinel swung its fist, aiming to crush Vex's skull. Vex sidestepped the blow with surprising agility, the force of the impact creating a shockwave that rattled his bones. He retaliated with a swift strike of his energy blade, slicing through the sentinel's arm with ease. Sparks flew as the severed limb clattered to the ground. The sentinel roared in pain, its movements becoming even more erratic. The other sentinel opened fire, a stream of plasma bolts searing through the air towards Vex. He ducked behind a ruined console, the plasma bolts impacting against the metal with explosive force. The console offered meager cover, but it was enough to buy him a few precious seconds. He needed to change his tactics. A direct confrontation would be suicide against two heavily armed opponents. He needed to use the environment to his advantage. He glanced around, scanning the corridor for potential opportunities. A network of exposed pipes ran along the ceiling, leaking steam and sparks. Perfect. SERA, can you overload the pressure regulators on those pipes? He asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Affirmative. Initiating sequence, now. SERA responded instantly. A high-pitched whine filled the air as the pressure regulators began to malfunction. Steam billowed from the pipes, obscuring the sentinel's vision. Vex used the distraction to his advantage, darting out from behind the console and closing the distance to the injured sentinel. He lunged forward, his energy blade aimed at the sentinel's central processing unit. The sentinel tried to defend itself, but its movements were clumsy and uncoordinated. Vex's blade plunged into its chest, severing vital circuits. The sentinel shuddered violently, its eyes dimming as it collapsed to the ground, a smoking husk of metal and wires. One down, one to go. The remaining sentinel roared in frustration, blindly firing its plasma rifle into the steam-filled corridor. Vex used the chaos to flank his opponent, circling around to its rear. He saw his opportunity and seized it. He leapt onto the sentinel's back, clamping his cybernetic hands around its neck. With a surge of strength, he ripped the sentinel's head from its body, severing the power cables that connected it to its torso. The sentinel's body crumpled to the ground, its weapon clattering harmlessly beside it. Vex stood over the wreckage of the sentinels, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His body ached, but a surge of adrenaline coursed through his veins. He had survived. He was still alive, in a manner of speaking. "Status report, SERA," he said, his voice still rough. "All hostile entities neutralized. Structural integrity of this section compromised due to steam overpressure. Recommending immediate relocation." SERA responded, her avatar flickering slightly. "Agreed. Lead the way, SERA. Let's find out what this cosmic dungeon has in store for us." As they moved deeper into the derelict space station, Vex couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a trap. The dungeon was clearly designed to test him, to push him to his limits. But what was the ultimate goal? Was it simply a prison, or something far more sinister? He glanced at his energy blade, the humming a constant reminder of his power. He would face whatever challenges the dungeon threw at him, and he would uncover its secrets. He was Vex Drayden, and he wasn't going to be broken. The corridors twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the station's labyrinthine interior. They passed through ruined chambers, filled with the detritus of a forgotten civilization. Broken machinery, discarded equipment, and the skeletal remains of long-dead inhabitants littered the floor. The air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. Vex could feel the weight of the dungeon pressing down on him, a constant reminder of his confinement. SERA, any signs of other survivors, or any clues about the station's original purpose? He asked, breaking the silence. Negative. All life signs are extinct, or have been converted into hostile entities. The station's records are heavily corrupted, but initial analysis suggests it was a research facility, possibly involved in experimental technology or dimensional studies. SERA responded, her avatar flickering as she processed the data. Dimensional studies. The words sent a chill down Vex's spine. Was the dungeon a byproduct of some failed experiment? A tear in reality? The possibilities were endless, and all of them were terrifying. They reached a massive blast door, sealed shut and heavily reinforced. The door was covered in strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. This is our only path forward, Vex. But the door is locked, and the security system is heavily encrypted, SERA said, her avatar focusing on the door. Can you crack it? Vex asked, his hand resting on his energy blade. I can try, but it will take time, and it will likely trigger an alarm, SERA responded. We don't have a choice. Do it, Vex said, his gaze fixed on the door. SERA initiated the hacking sequence, her avatar flickering rapidly as she wrestled with the security system. The symbols on the door pulsed faster, the air crackling with energy. A series of alarms blared through the station, growing louder with each passing second. Vex braced himself, preparing for the inevitable onslaught. He was dead, trapped in a digital hellscape, and about to face another wave of hostile entities. Just another day in the cosmic dungeon. After several tense minutes, the door shuddered violently, the symbols dimming and then disappearing. With a loud hiss, the blast door slid open, revealing a dark and ominous corridor beyond. I've disabled the primary security measures, but I couldn't bypass the secondary systems. Expect heavy resistance, SERA warned. Understood. Let's go, Vex said, stepping through the open doorway. He had no idea what awaited him on the other side, but he was ready to face it. He was Vex Drayden, and he was going to escape this digital prison, or die trying. As they ventured deeper into the station, Vex's fragmented memories continued to plague him. Images of his past life flickered through his mind. Glimpses of faces, places, and events that he couldn't quite grasp. He remembered the thrill of the hunt, the camaraderie of his team, and the weight of his failures. He had been a celebrated bounty hunter, known for his skill and his ruthlessness. But his past was shrouded in mystery, a dark cloud that threatened to consume him. SERA, sensing his distress, attempted to distract him. Vex, I'm detecting a significant energy signature emanating from the next sector. It could be a power source, a weapons cache, or something else entirely, she said. Let's check it out. It's better than dwelling on the past, Vex responded, pushing aside his memories. They followed the energy signature, navigating through a maze of corridors and ruined chambers. The air grew thicker, the temperature rising steadily. They reached a massive chamber, dominated by a towering machine that hummed with power. The machine was a bizarre contraption of wires, pipes, and glowing crystals, unlike anything Vex had ever seen. It pulsed with energy, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. "What is that thing?" Vex asked, his voice filled with awe and apprehension. "Unknown. The energy signature is off the charts. I'm attempting to analyze its function, but the data is heavily encrypted," SERA responded. As they approached the machine, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a human, but his appearance was grotesque and distorted. His skin was pale and translucent, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. He was clad in a tattered lab coat, his hands twitching erratically. "You shouldn't be here," the figure rasped, his voice a distorted echo. "This is my domain, my creation." "Who are you, and what is that machine?" Vex asked, his hand resting on his energy blade. "I am Dr. Evren Talos, and this is the key to unlocking the secrets of the dungeon." Talos responded, his eyes gleaming with madness. "The dungeon is not a prison, as you believe. It is a laboratory, a testing ground for new realities." Vex frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The Warden is not in control. There is something else, something older," Talos hissed. "I'm trying to solve the puzzle." Talos lunged at Vex, his hands outstretched. "You will be my test subjects." Vex reacted instantly, drawing his energy blade and deflecting Talos's attack. The blade sparked against Talos's skin, searing his flesh. Talos recoiled in pain, his eyes widening in horror. You can't stop me. I'm so close." Talos stumbled back towards the machine, his hands reaching for a control panel. Vex knew he couldn't let Talos activate the machine. He lunged forward, his energy blade aimed at Talos's heart. With a swift strike, he plunged the blade into Talos's chest, severing his spinal cord. Talos gasped, his eyes dimming as he collapsed to the ground, dead. "What now, SERA?" Vex asked, his gaze fixed on the machine. "The machine is unstable. It's about to overload," SERA responded, her avatar flickering rapidly. "We need to get out of here, now." Vex didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed SERA's avatar and sprinted out of the chamber, just as the machine exploded in a blinding flash of light. The force of the explosion rocked the station, sending debris flying in all directions. Vex and SERA were thrown to the ground, their bodies battered and bruised. They lay there for a moment, dazed and disoriented, as the station continued to tremble. When the dust settled, Vex looked around at the wreckage. The chamber was destroyed, the machine reduced to a pile of smoking rubble. Dr. Talos was gone, his secrets buried with him. "What was that all about?" Vex asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Dr. Talos was clearly insane. He believed the dungeon was a laboratory, a testing ground for new realities. SERA responded, her avatar flickering slightly. "But what was he trying to do with that machine?" Vex asked. "Unknown. His data was heavily encrypted, and the explosion destroyed most of the evidence." SERA responded, "But I did manage to recover a few fragments of information." "And?" Vex pressed. Talos was searching for something, a deeper truth about the dungeon. He believed the Warden wasn't the original master, that something else lurked deeper within. SERA said. Vex felt a chill run down his spine. Something else. What could be more powerful than the Warden? He didn't want to think about it. He had enough problems already. "Let's just focus on escaping this hellhole," he said, pushing aside his fears. "Agreed, but we should be prepared for anything," SERA responded, as they continued their journey through the dungeon. Vex knew that things were about to get a lot more complicated. The truth about the dungeon was out there, waiting to be discovered, and he was determined to find it, no matter the cost. The corridors grew narrower, the air thicker. The station seemed to be closing in on them, suffocating them. Vex could feel the pressure building, both physically and mentally. He was tired, wounded, and haunted by his past. But he wasn't going to give up. He was Vex Drayden, and he was a survivor. He would escape this dungeon, or die trying. The corridors opened into a vast, cavernous chamber. In the center of the chamber, a massive portal shimmered with energy. "That's it, Vex. That's our way out," SERA said, her avatar pulsing with excitement. "Let's not celebrate just yet. I have a feeling it's not going to be that easy," Vex responded, his hand resting on his energy blade. As if on cue, a figure materialized in front of the portal. It was the Warden. "I see you've come far, Vex Drayden, but your journey ends here," the Warden said, its voice a cold, emotionless drone. "I'm not afraid of you," Vex responded, his voice filled with defiance. "You can't stop me from escaping this dungeon. Escape is an illusion, Vex Drayden. There is no escape from the truth," the Warden said. "The dungeon is not a prison. It is a reflection of your soul." Vex frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You are trapped here because of your past, your failures, your regrets," the Warden said. "The only way to escape is to confront your demons." Vex felt a surge of anger. He didn't want to hear about his past. He wanted to escape. He lunged at the Warden, his energy blade raised high. The Warden didn't move. It simply raised its hand, and a wall of energy materialized in front of it, blocking Vex's attack. The energy wall pulsed with power, sending Vex flying backwards. He crashed to the ground, his body aching. He looked up at the Warden, his eyes filled with hate. "I'm going to destroy you," he said. "You can try, Vex Drayden, but you will fail," the Warden said. "The dungeon is my domain, and you are my prisoner." The Warden raised its hand again, and a swarm of robotic sentinels materialized around it, their weapons trained on Vex. Vex knew he was in trouble. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an opponent who seemed to be omnipotent. But he wasn't going to give up. He was Vex Drayden, and he never backed down from a fight. He activated his cybernetic enhancements, his muscles coiling, his reflexes sharpening. He was ready to face whatever the Warden threw at him. He would escape this dungeon or die trying. This was just the beginning. The true nature of his imprisonment was still a mystery, and the dungeon held many more secrets yet to be uncovered. The revelation of Dr. Talos about an older force than the Warden sent a shiver of excitement and fear through him. What could be more powerful? As the battle began, he knew one thing for sure. The road ahead would be long and dangerous, but he was not alone. He had SERA by his side, and together they would face whatever challenges the cosmic dungeon threw their way. He would not break. He would not yield. He would escape.